Okay, we're back in Unity. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be actually setting up the weapon we made in Blender earlier, and we're going to be, going over everything just in more detail on how we're going to be setting that stuff up. So first thing you want to do is go down to this resources folder, and you're going to want to make yourself a folder. So right click anywhere in it, create folder, and then you're just going to want to name it whatever you want, whatever's easiest, and you can open it. Then either you can put everything, like you can go in here, just put it in how it is, like in this. So, your source and textures, you can just drop that in there. Obviously, our source is different because we messed with the model. So we're going to switch these out, and I'm going to delete this old one. So that's our mace and everything, our mace and textures in the game. And then what we're going to want to do is actually make a material. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the weapon. I'm going to put our model into the weapon. So here, now we can see it's huge. So what you're going to want to do, is you're going to want to just scale it down. So let's try 0.2 at first. That's still too big. So we're going to try 0.05. That's about what we want, yeah. For a one-handed mace. If you want to, I might want this to be a bit bigger, so I'm going to do, this. That's going to give us a bit big, so I'm going to keep it down here. And this is, our thing in game. You can line it up with this example, just so everything lines up correctly, so it's easiest to set up for you. And there, that's set up properly. It's strange that this is see-through. It must have a really weird material on it. So we're going to now make our new material. So go back into your resources folder. We're going to hit right-click, create material, and then we're going to name it, whatever. So hammer. I'm just going to name it hammer. And then we're going to go up here and just hit this lock so that we can move over to our textures and it'll be easier for us. We have the base texture, the metallic, and then the normal. Base texture, that's the base map here. If we put that on here, let me actually put this material on the weapon and turn off this gizmo. So as you can see, if we put this on, you can now see we've got the colors again. The metallic, that shows, what should shine. As I mess with this, you won't see much, but if I actually go up here and turn the light on, you'll kind of get a better example of how it shines. If you really want to look, you can, like add a light. That's not in here. Or in the main scene, if I put the weapon into the scene and then zoom into it, this has a light in it, so you'll kind of see better how it reflects. If I mess with the smoothness, you'll see that's more shiny. If I mess with the colors, you'll get different colors. That's just, the metallic is just how it shines. And then we have the normal. That's this one here. Just drag that into normal. And you're going to get this because we didn't change it to a normal map, so just go ahead and hit fix now. And that's just how light reflects. So this basically, if I zoom in better, we'll start to see bumps kind of form as we do this. The textures on this are a bit low quality, so it's not as well shown. But that's just how light is reflecting off it. If I rotate, even though there aren't actual bumps on the model, the light will shine off it differently. And that just makes everything look nicer, look more real. As you can see with no normal, this is kind of flat, but once we add that normal, you can kind of see some depth there. That's what those are. You might have an occlusion map or a height map. A height map is just like, it's kind of like a normal map, like bumps. It's not as important. Or like the occlusion map. That's kind of, you see this outline on this. The occlusion map will kind of like show where that outline shouldn't be, and like where stuff should be darker. And then emissions, if you have an emission map, you'll turn on emissions and then go ahead and put it in here. And that just shows like it should glow and where it should glow. I don't have anything in here that would be too good to explain with. Here, this crossbow. And you can see, now if I change this, we're getting a glow along the crossbow texture. That's just what the emission map is. That's what everything in here is. You can tile it. That's basically, a tiling is just like, hey, more. An offset is just an offset, how it's different on the model. That's how we make a material. If you're doing something, make sure this isn't moved because that moves everything. If you're doing something different, like if I wanted to make a part of it glow, like let's say this handle here, I wanted it to glow with like a kind of weird, like let's say it was made out of magic, I can make another thing and then go like add center glow or whatever shader I like. Oops, the wrong one. Add center glow and then whatever I like, and that'll kind of make it glow. I can then, you know, as talked about with the trails, give it a noise, move that noise around, and that'll give you a you know, weird effect. You won't need to do that normally. You'll just be using the base hammer. It's good for you to know that there's different ways to make materials for different things. Like if I was making a weapon where I had like mage hand at the end, I would use that material with like add center glow and like yellow glow, and that would make it look more like a mage hand instead of just like hand. So that's how the weapon is set up in game. Or the model, texture, everything. That's how we get it into the game. Now, if we go back into this, we can turn back on our gizmo, and we'll see, you know, proper size. It's in the game. This is small. It's a small weapon, so we're gonna want to swing probably like a regular sword because it is a bit heavier. Because we've got, you know, this stuff up here. Maybe like a claymore. It depends on what the size of your thing is. Whatever you think it should swing like, it should swing like. And just add it like that. And since this is a heavier weapon, we are going to add in that rigid body init we talked about in the first tutorial. And we're going to move that up, make sure our gizmos are on so we can see it. We're going to move that around, probably about there. I think that's a good center of mass. And then the tensor, we're just going to put that to the default settings we talked about too. So that's going to be 0.8, 0.8, 0.2. If you have your model rotated, like as you can see here, mine does line up with this, but like let's say my forward is like this. First off, you should fix that. You don't want it to be like that. You want it to line up with the forward going along the forward. But like let's say you didn't, you would have to change these around so that they'd be correct. But it's best practice just to keep this along the correct rotation. Everything will just be better for that. Now, attach line. Again, you're going to want to put this where you want it. This is actually pretty good. I'm going to move it a bit down because, again, I want it near like a hilt. Anywhere it should just mount to the body. This is nice. If you have like some weird thing, like you want it to mount oddly, you can rotate it around. I wouldn't mess with it. I would recommend keeping default settings on rotation and just moving it where you want it to be. Now, the attach line, you're going to need a gizmo on for this. We're going to go back. We're going to turn off the example weapon so we can see the attach line better. It's a bit hard to see. So if I zoom in, you can see that blue line there. That blue line is where we can grab, and we want to be able to grab here. So I'm going to zoom in a bit just so I can see into the model and set it up. Now, you might think you want it to go from each end fully, but that line is where the palm ends. So while the palm ends here, you're still going to have some hand here. So you're going to want to pull it back a bit so that there's enough space for the hand to rest correctly. And that'll give you a nice feeling. Now, I am going to want two-handed. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and put this, the first attach line into the dependency object on the second one. And that's going to make it so when we add this second attach line into the list, it will allow me to grab two-handed as long as we have that toggle on. Now, I also think this area here should be grabbable, so I'm going to duplicate both of these, and I'm going to move it over so that I can grab here too, and that's just going to make it so we can grab both areas. You're going to want to make sure it's lined up correctly, otherwise you'll get a weird grab. So if I click this arrow up here, and then try to find the model, there it is. We can see it is a bit to the side, so I'm going to grab all of these, just move them slightly over so that they're in the center. You can actually just set this position here to 0 if you want to, and that'll normally align it pretty well. Here, this is a bit up too, because we have a weird, our model is weirdly positioned. So we're just going to move it into the correct spot. This should be good. This should grab nicely. Okay, something I didn't cover in the first tutorial, the index limit, the thumb limit, and the palm limit. If you ever have a question about anything, you can hover over and it'll explain. It doesn't explain the best, but basically the index limit, if I want to grab with only right facing, so like let me think of a weapon in game that does this. The light rapier, if you grab that, you see that you can't ever turn it the other way. It always faces with the handle facing forward. That would be because the index limit is set to right. It goes along the right line, or, X, or this red line. If I want it to be the opposite, I would do left, or if I want it to be able to rotate around, I would do both. But if I have like a spear, I want it to be able to rotate around full 360, I would do none. None, it's, as you can see here, it's 360. It is no limit. So we, for this, because it's got, these here, I think it would be good to make it fit into that, both, so that we have these always facing. But if you have, again, a spear, or if you want this to fully rotate, you're going to want to do both. If you have like the light rapier where you need or like a katana that you don't want to be able to turn around and you want it to always face with the blade facing forward, you're going to want to do right if you have the rotations correctly. Or if you have one where the model is flipped, you can do left, or, whatever. That just explains it a bit. The thumb limit and the palm limit, the thumb limit, if I remember correctly, that should be along the up. So if this is basically, if I, let me think of another example here. The light rapier is still a good example. The light rapier, you can never hold it in reverse grip. That's because it is set to forward. The thumb will always be pointing upwards or forward. But with the bloody scimitar, or whatever it's called, you can't ever grab it normally. That's because it is set with backwards. If I want to allow both, like if I want to be able to flip this around into a reverse grip, I have none. Palm limit. This is even more confusing. Basically, that's where this Y arrow thinks. You can think of these as index limit. This red, do we align with this red? Do we allow flipping with this red, or do we ignore it? The thumb limit, do we do forward and backwards? Do we align with the forward, or align with the negative forward, or do we do both? And then the thumb limit, that's this Y. So you can mess with 2Y, from Y, or just none. That's, again, both. That's if... that's, you really shouldn't mess with it unless you're really having to. It would mess with both hands. But that's if you need a specific thing. Like if I have a shield, I need it to always face this one way, but the attach line is, set up in a weird way where, because shields are, where the forward is up the shield and the right is, the right side of the shield. That Y would be the shield facing upwards. The flat part of the shield would be here. So we would set probably 2Y, we would set from Y, because the palm would be facing towards the handle, which would be here, with the big circular part here. So let me just pull in this shield, actually. There's no shields. Okay. Okay, so imagine this is a shield, right? We have the handle here, and then we have the outside part here. When we're holding a shield, the palm is going to face away from the main body of the shield. We're going to have the back of the hand facing up towards the shield. So that would mean our attach line would have from Y. If maybe like we had it where it was reversed, where our palm for some reason is facing towards the top of the shield, we would do 2Y. And then if we have basically anything else where we don't need to really worry about that, we do none. Just, I know these are all confusing. That's the basics. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know it's all confusing. Yeah. All right, so that's the attach line setup and explaining what the attach lines do. Of course, there's still this. There's like allow trigger. That's if it should have, allow you to use skills with that one. Is climb attach. Don't really mess with that. That's for walls. The start point and end point. That's the start and end. Auto update hand pose. That's if I rub my hand along it, will it do the same thing as we talked about with the auto tick to hand, where it'll kind of make it touch the collider where it'll line up with it using the bending automatically to touch onto the collider. You don't really need that really. If you want it for some reason, you can turn it on. If like you have a specific thing that needs it, you can turn it on. For most people, it's not needed and just makes performance a slight bit worse. So now we're going to add all of the attach lines into the attach list. So just go up here, make sure this is locked so that whenever I click something else, I don't get turned off it. So just go ahead and lock onto the tutorial. Or, this is called the root object because it is the root, it's the top. So just go ahead and select all your attach lines. We already have this first attach line in it because it came with that. So we don't need to do that for that one. And we just drag it into the list. And now you can see we have all 4 of our attach lines. Now we can grab with all of our attaches. Gaze, that's already set up as we talked about before. I've explained all of this. Durability, I don't want infinite durability. I like to keep it around like 200. I don't like breaking weapons as often, so I like to keep it more sturdy. I don't like the 50. Now again, interact trigger. We're not doing anything with the trigger, so we're not going to touch it. The gaze object that was set up, if you change your name on this ever, or like you change your address, make sure you pull it again, just so it's updated, so it's up to date, nothing's missing. And this, I went over the trail. This would not have a trail because it's not sharp. If you wanted to add one, again, I will explain really quickly. Trail, drag it in, and then move the start and end point to the proper points. Boom. And now it's set up. What else do I have to cover? Okay. Now we're going to do the, so all of this should be set up, again, if we look in here, I explained this in the first one, we can see our model is default. That is wrong. That will not work. We have to make sure it is interact layer, that otherwise it won't collide with stuff, it'll fall through the ground, it won't do anything. Now, colliders. We broke up the model in Blender to make colliders, so now I'm going to explain what we do to actually add those colliders. So because all of these have collisions, we set this up so all of these should have them. We can just select all of these to add the collider. But like, let's say I don't want this part here to have the collider. I can select all of this and then hit Control and then click, and that will remove it. But I want it, so I'm going to put it on there. And then we're going to hit Add Component. You're going to type in Mesh, then Mesh Collider. So then hit convex. Again, we talked about how we have convex colliders, and we have to ignore those concave areas. That's why we split it up. So you're going to hit that, and as you can see here, we have pretty good colliders, as I talked about in the tutorial. This part here, we still have the lines, and this part up here, we still have the lines that are from the concave areas, but like the head, this is a perfect box. The handle, these line up well, and these two are so small that no one will really notice and no one will care. So that is our model setup. That is everything put on, the colliders. We have the correct layer. This will now work in-game. Our guard point, I'll keep that on here as I explained in the first tutorial. I'm going to put that like here. That's a good place for them to guard. And if I want it on there, we're just going to, add it here. Now, if we look back through everything, double check everything, our rigid body, kind of heavy. I'm going to lower this down to like 8. Everything else, that can stay about the same. And then our interact. We have everything. We have our durability. We have our guard point. Our swing. We set it up something like a claymore or regular sword. We can do a hand. We have it set up here. We're allowed to grab. We have all of our attach lines. Our mount attach. Our gaze. No gaze distant limit. We can enhance. And now we can go over how the enchanting works. So this I don't think was ever explained. So this is what you need to do. So first off, the culls, the 2 colliders, that's going to be the 2 heads. If you have other parts that you can, like a sword, let's say for some reason it's split into like 6 different parts because it has really weird colliders that will add a lot of convex stuff, you're going to want to just add all of those in. And basically whenever we run like a fire spell, ice spell, whatever over this, that will work. That will now do the enhancing. If you do not add enchant renderers, it will just add a default particle to the root, which is going to be right here. Is that the pivot? Yeah, which is going to be right here. What you're going to want to do, though, is have your thing show right here. So as we set up in the first video, again, our hit infos, I will link that in the description again in this one. We have metal because this is a metal object, and then we have weapon blunt for the collision, so that it'll give off the proper sound and effect whenever we hit stuff. This is weapon blunt is just like metal, anything that's a blunt weapon. And that's everything in the weapon actually set up. So if we go back over this, everything is interact layer, everything is properly in place, and everything looks to be working. So now we can move on to the icon. So go in here, you have the icon generator, or the template wizard creates a default. Just delete that, you don't need it. And what we can do is go into, what I like to do is right click in the thing and hit show and explorer, open it, and then I just copy this so that it's easier to save it with the icon generator. So go to tools, icon generator, drag your weapon in, then go ahead and set a color. Normally just black is what like everyone uses. And then we're going to want to mess with the rotation. So what we're going to want to do first, view direction, 1 here, maybe 1 along. You're just going to want to mess with it until you get a good look. Like I like this, that shows off the weapon well. If you need to like zoom in or out for some reason, you can. But otherwise you can just click it and rotate it around. Find something you like. I think this shows it off well. If you want like a different color, everyone uses black, or if you have like a specific texture you want, you can go in with a texture and put that in. But for most people, just do like black, unless you want something specific. Then you can hit save PNG, and then we're going to go ahead and put in our folder that we copied earlier, and then we can just hit save. And now it will be in here. You're not going to see it instantly. That's just because it doesn't like working. It doesn't like updating unless something forces it to update. So if you just hit show and explorer and then open it again, then when you go back in, it's going to pop up. Now click it, and then we're going to go down here, max size, lower that to like 128, 256, just so we don't have like high quality textures showing as the texture in the shop. That's going to cause lag as more people do that. So we're just going to keep that low. Config. This is where we start to get into the actual addressables. So one more time, I'm going to go over it because addressables are super important. Control-Shift-E. Down here, you have your prefix. We explained why the prefix, but basically it's to differentiate from other mods, just so in case two people share the same weapon name, this works so that the two people can have their thing work because they have different addresses. Then down here, you have your build folder. Again, tutorial. If I was like doing tower turret, I would change tutorial here to tower turret. And then whenever you do anything like I just made the new icon that deleted the old one with the old address, we're going to want to hit clear and then create. And then if we go in here, we'll now see that icon. It's back with the correct thing. Our weapon shares the same thing, but with the weapon start. These two do have to have the exact same name. Otherwise, it will not read the data, because if we go in config here, we see this tutorial. It does not have the weapon or icon start. That's because it uses both and adds them while reading the data. So if they do not have the same name, you will get a blank, you will get a name in the shop. It'll just show the name of the weapon instead of any icon. So make sure these two share the exact same name and the same starting address. So anything after the slash, make sure that's the same. And then go ahead and copy that name. Go to config, our tutorial, and just paste that in here. That's this. And then we can have our name. So like, for me, I'm not actually doing anything important, so I'm just going to do tutorial mace, and then give it a description. And now this will be shown in game. If you are not seeing this in game, you're going to want to go down to weapon, go to your weapon, and then pull gaze info again. This should look something like this. It should be the start, or the up here, as you can see this. It should be this, and then the show info should be that plus underscore description or disk, and that will make your thing work. If anything doesn't work, if names don't work, if it doesn't show up in shop, if it doesn't spawn when you try to spawn it in shop, that is because your addresses are wrong. You need to always make sure your addresses are correct, otherwise nothing will work. Now, we've got our addresses set up. We have, the weapon all set up correctly, our icon set up, our config. We can then go back into File, Build Settings, Player Settings, and change this. So mod project example, we have, tutorial example, or whatever. We're going to do tutorial mace. and that's going to just give it the folder a name. So now you're going to want to do one more final look, make sure everything is interact layer, make sure everything, you've got your proper stuff, you've got everything set up, you've got your attach lines, make sure your addresses are correct. Those are most important. Again, I want to stress that. And once everything is set up, you think it's correct, you can go up, hit build tools, and build all bundles. This is going to take a while for the first time. After the first time, it normally takes, depending on your computer, it could take from like a few minutes to, when I have a new mod project, it takes around 10 seconds to fully build mod with my computer. This is going to take a while. If it ever freezes on one thing for like more than 5 minutes, it has crashed. You are going to have to open your task manager and close it, and then just try to reopen it and rebuild it. As long as you saved, normally whenever you hit build, it'll automatically save. So as long as you've saved, you can just try to build again. It just something got caught up. It happens sometimes. Just restart the build. We're going to go over a few issues while this builds. So first off, the hand moving very slowly at like 2 frames a second whenever you get near a weapon. That is because you have that nil, null, missing or none attached line in the attach list. You need to either put in the correct attach line, or if you deleted one, you have to make sure it's deleted from the list. Weapons flying away from you. A weapon flying away from you, I will explain more in detail in a minute, but it basically means your weapon is not in the correct spot, so it's trying to bring it to you, but it thinks it's in a different area than where the actual model is, and that's what's causing it to fly away from you, because it can't actually reach you. As I've already explained, if it doesn't show up in shop, that's an address error. If it doesn't show up when you spawn it, that's an address error. If your weapon falls through the ground, that's because it is not interact layer. If you can't grab the weapon, that's either because the attach line is not interact layer, or because it is not in the attach list, or you have turned off the grab setting. Those are the basic issues that you're going to run in often when you're starting. If you have any more issues that you're running into, leave them in the description. I will answer all of them. I will link you to anything that can help you. I'll give you an example and a reason why it happens, how to avoid it. And then again, you can join the Discord. I'll have that linked in the description. That gives you that has all the modders in it. Everyone will be able to help you. Everyone in there is very nice. I've seen a lot of improvement from the new modders. They're helping each other a lot, and I'm really proud of them. So if you have any issues, you're going to have to go in there. You can go in there, ask for help. Someone will help you pretty quickly. If not, you can ping me personally, and I will give you advice, tell you whatever needs to be done. All right, we've hit this. So this means the scene, the original scene, where we put in our weapon just to show you the lighting and stuff, that wasn't saved. If you're not messing with the scenes, you're not going to get this if it's just in the mod project. But it doesn't really matter. Just hit save and continue. And you're going to have to save your Unity file. So, I'm just going to, you're going to have to do this for the first time, and I'm just going to do, tutorial. Boom, and it's going to go back into building. All right, now that's built. You're going to have to do multiple builds, so it's good to know that the next time you build, it should be much faster. It is much, much faster. But just keep in mind, you are going to have to do multiple builds. This is your first mod. You're not going to get it right in the first time. If you do, that's great. But don't expect it to work first try. You're going to have forgotten one thing in the tutorial. Don't get discouraged. So now that it's built, we have this mods folder down here, and we have our mace. And as we can see, we have the Android support because we downloaded it, and we have the Windows. That's default. So what you're going to want to do, just go ahead, right-click this, show in Explorer, open it. This is our mod. If it's working, we can post it to mod.io. If not, we have to test it to see if it's working. Please always test it. Do not upload straight to mod.io. How you can test it is if you have the Quest version. Let me go here. If you have the Quest version, you can go plug in your Quest or use SideQuest or whatever. I just plug it in with a USB-C, and then in settings, allow the connection. And then I just navigate Android data, SideDream, files, mods, and then you can drop this folder into there, the one that stores these two. So when you drop that in, you can then test it. If everything works, that's nice. If not, you can go back through the tutorial, see any bugs. Most likely check your addresses. That's where you're going to have messed up. If you're on computer, what you can actually do is you can just go here and then hit install mod on Windows, and that'll automatically just throw it into this path. or you can do it manually if you want, but you don't have to. If you have Battle Talent on computer, you can actually do something really cool. So what we're going to want to do is launch Steam, and we're going to launch Battle Talent, keyboard and mouse. Go ahead and let that launch, and you're going to move around with your mouse, hit start, and then go sandbox as if you were in, VR. Do it normally. Once you're in game, you can hit F11. That'll open up the cheat menu. Then you just go to weapons and then turn on mods. And then as we can see here, here's our mace. It's grabbable, movable. If I go over here, hit this guy, it's going to take damage. As we can see, it's all working. Once you know it works in game, it spawns everything. Then, only on PC, you can then go into the headset, make sure everything works. But if you're on Quest, you're just going to have to go directly into the headset. With that, we've tested our mod. We know it works. If there's anything you need to do, you can go back in, you can change it, make sure you're working in the prefab, with this blue void, and then hit build, and then build all bundles again, and it'll go ahead and change anything. Like, let's say I wanted to give it more durability, or I needed to change the weight, or I needed to mess with these, because I do. They don't work. All right, now we've tested the mod, we know it works. If there's anything you need to do, like let's say I want to give this 250 durability, I can then go back in, build up bundles, or if something isn't working, mess with your addresses, your layers, whatever, you can do that, build again, test again, and once it works, only if it works, then you can go over, go to mod.io, and start posting your mod. So how you post a mod, first, go to mod.io, go to Battle Talent, you're going to hit add mod, your name, so tutorial mace, give it a description, and then you're going to want to give it an icon. I don't have one, so I'm just going to throw this photo of Aura on there. Then you can go down here, do anything you need for this. So we did a weapon. It isn't in a specific collection, so we're not going to do that. Down here, it's not multiplayer compatible. If you want to do multiplayer compatible with basic weapons, you just go into the config and you hit supported multiplayer. And that will mean it has multiplayer. If it has a skill, skills need to be specifically coded to work with multiplayer. So if it has a skill, it most likely does not work with multiplayer. But a basic weapon, you can just hit that tag and then it can be used in multiplayer. So once we have that and we've built it with it, it's multiplayer compatible. We don't have any skill, we don't have any of this, so it's none of that. It is a blunt, so we add the blunt. We don't have a specific version that it's made for, like it doesn't use anything for this. It doesn't work on demo, so I'll just do V111P5. The demo, the new mod projects do not support the demo anymore. For some reason, it's odd, but for some reason they don't, so you'll just have to do this. Or if you want to use a mod proj that supports the demo, you're going to have to go and in here and try to get an older one. I'm sure there's older backups, or I'm sure there's someone who has an old backup. So just do that, but it isn't that big of an issue. Most people are on the full game, and it's easier to use the mod proj with all of the new stuff anyway. So here's some bugs. PC only, Oculus Quest only. These two should be pretty avoidable. I've already explained how to get the Android support. And if you, for some reason, only have Android support, that's really weird. That most likely means you just accidentally deleted the folder for Windows. Flies past hand, I've explained how this works. Again, I can go back in here now that this is built. So let's say our weapon is actually over here, but our prefab is here. If I go to the pivot, we can see this is the origin of our prefab. We want our weapon to be at the origin. If it's not, it's going to cause issues. So you're going to, the easiest way to do this is you just make sure you're aligned with that sword or whatever, example you're using. But just make sure it's aligned at that origin and it will not fly away from the hand. And then if like a polearm does it, again, it's most likely in the wrong position. Maybe like the whole polearm is, let's say this is a polearm. Maybe the polearm's bottom is at the origin. You just want to pull it back down, make sure its center is at the origin, and that will fix that bug. And you got mod week. If it's currently a mod week, it's an event in the Discord, you can add the mod week tag. If not, do not touch them because you are not in that mod week. Now, just go ahead down here, hit save. If we have any images we want, or the Sketchfab URL, because my mace got lost for some reason, I do not have the URL for the model anymore. I might be able to find it if I run through here real quick. Yep, here it is. You can just go ahead and put that in here to give credit to the original model creator. People like that. It's nice to do. Then you can give it dependencies. I don't have any dependencies. A dependency is basically like if I have two mods, one that relies on another, I can make it auto download that mod. Like let's say I have let me break. If I were to make my gesture magic system into a standalone system that you can then call on whenever, which I've thought about doing, you would have the gesture magic system as the dependency, and then the actual gesture magic would be this mod I'm posting right now, and using that gesture magic system as the dependency. For like every mod that you're doing, you're not going to need a dependency, but it's good for you to know what it is in case in the future you do get better and you know what you're doing with those skills or like systems that do that. And then, all right, now the last step, you're just going to want to go down here, give it a number, and you're going to want to upload your mod file. So just go into the mod folder we had before, right-click this, then compress to zip file. It has to be a zip, otherwise it doesn't work. And then you're just going to drag that zip file into here, and then agree, and you can upload and publish, or keep as draft. All right, now you know how to make the basics of a weapon, at least for a blunt weapon. We're now going to move on to a sword. We're just going to be showing how to set up the stab because everything else is the same, but stabs are confusing for all the new people. So we're going to move on to that in the next video. That should be on the screen.